special live edition of the Crimson Powered by KSLSports.com. I'm your host and Utes insider, Trevor Allen, and I'm excited to catch up with our next guest. It's been way too long, but we are going to catch up with Runnin Utes head coach Craig Smith. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Trevor. How are you? You look great, man. Look refreshed.
Do I?
Olympic coverage, looking good.
I mean, yeah, we're coming off of the Olympics, and then now Kyle Whittingham's program is opening up fall camp. But obviously, we need to talk about the Runnin Utes. We'll touch on Kyle Whittingham's team here in a minute because I know that you're into college football. But I just want to touch on a few things. First off, you guys now have an MTE. You guys are going to go to Florida. Sunny Florida. Hopefully things are good as far as the COVID part of it, but you guys are going to go play in the Sunshine Slam. Just talk about that a little bit.
First of all, I am really into college football and the NFL. Go Vikes. Skol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, our scheduling is always it's one of the most difficult parts of the job. I say that pretty consistently whenever we bring up scheduling because it is. It's not as easy as, hey, we want to play you. You know, that doesn't mean they want to play us. And then you got to figure out the dates is always a difficult thing. And then, you know, home and homes. I'm a big believer in trying to get home and homes with high major teams. But that's getting more and more difficult all the time. The exempt tournament or the MTE down in Florida, we're really excited about, you know, starting with Boston College. Jim Molinari is a good friend of ours. He's an assistant there. And so that's the first game, and hopefully we can take care of business and take on the winner of Rhode Island and Tulsa. So those guys have been very good in the last few years. So we're excited to go down there. You know, scheduling is always difficult. We're going to play them the week before we play some higher end teams that way. You know, we got such a new team, 8 new guys in our program. You know, returned 24% of our scoring, and that was mainly Brandon Carlson and Riley Bettine. So, you know, we don't know exactly who we are or what we are. So the scheduling piece has been an ongoing thing. We're getting close to being done here, I think, as long as these contracts go through. As long as everything goes through, we truly have one game to get. And I think we're very close to getting that as well. So it'll be a good, you know, when you can play back-to-back games in that kind of a setting, I think you find out a lot about yourself in terms of what kind of depth that we have. And I think you find out real quick, like who's starting to figure things out, especially at that time of year. So we're excited to get down there and compete.
It seems like in those you know, season tournaments, you usually have fared well, especially with the Aggies. You guys have gone on to play in some really good tournaments with some really quality teams. What is kind of the key to that? Because I know that in the past, Utah has struggled in some of those tournaments.
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. First of all, you need to be good, and we were good, you know, at Utah State. I think you got to schedule. There's, like I said, scheduling right matters, and that means that's all the way through and through. When you schedule your MTE, we try to build around our MTE, and obviously conference play. It is a little different here, and last year we had it at Utah State for the first time where we played league games. So we played Pac-12 games in December. So that throws a little bit of it makes it more difficult because you got to make sure you're peaking, somewhat at that time. Obviously you're not peaking for your season at that time, but you want to get off to a good start in conference play. So, you know, what's the travel look like? What's your non-conference games before that? So we're trying to figure out our MTE for next year right now, and I think we're very close to doing that. And then you build around it appropriately. You know, what games you have to go on the road for, what games you're at home. This year we play BYU at home. Next year we're at BYU. Not that that's a difficult road trip in terms of the travel, but obviously it's always going to be a tough game, right? Especially with you throw records out the window. It's always going to be a tough physical game anytime you have a rivalry game. So we've been fortunate, whether we were at South Dakota or Utah State, to do well. We won the Jamaica Classic a couple years ago, beating LSU. We did well down in the Vegas tournament. And last year we didn't do quite as well. But you know what? And we weren't exactly set up either. It was our first 3 games of the season, 3 games in 3 days, and we had 8 true freshmen, We didn't know what we had. I do think, even though we didn't perform well, we finished 1-2. We started 0-2. I do think those 3 games in 3 days helped us a lot on the back end. So it didn't help our record, but it helped us really figure out in a quick fashion who can play, who's got some work to do, and then go from there.
Now, something that I wanted to bring up as far as scheduling, your old boss, John Hartwell, went onto a podcast. I'm sure you've already heard about it, but he was saying he wanted to do a home and home with you guys. But he was only willing to do a home and home. I know there's a whole perception of we're in, a higher level conference, home and homes with a lower, and I kind of use that term lightly, but having, obviously the Mountain West and Pac-12 are different, and you're gonna know that coming into this season. But as far as a home and home with the Aggies, is that something you're willing to do, or are you guys at kind of a crossroads with the Aggies?
Oh, I don't think it depends on what you mean by a crossroads. I'm very open to it. I think it's important to play. I've been steadfast with this, playing in-state schools, whether it's BYU, Weber State, right on down the line, Dixie to Utah State. And so I'm very open to it. I think a lot of it, quite frankly, at Utah State the last 3 years, we've been, Utah State's been better than Utah the last 3 years. Just to be quite frank, I mean, it's pretty obvious. And so, we had already, in scheduling, we've always contacted the Utes, and, you got to look at the state of each program as well. So, Utah State would have been a quad 1 game for the University of Utah all 3 years, whether it was a home game for Utah or it might not have been a quad 1 game for Utah at home in year 3. But that's how good our net ranking was at Utah State. So I think you got to look at all of that stuff, and does it make sense from that standpoint? But I think it makes sense from a fan base perspective. I think it makes sense from a travel perspective. Like, listen, you play a road game and you drive, however far it is, an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes, or whatever it might be. And so I think that's a good thing. And I say that knowing how great of a home court advantage Utah State has. I mean, they got great fans in Cache Valley, and it's a very difficult place to play. And I know that fully. But you know what? It's not easy playing, at the University of Arizona or at the University of Oregon, or just go right on down the line. So part of scheduling is setting yourself up to get an at-large NCAA tournament berth in case you don't win the Pac-12 Conference Tournament Championship. But part of scheduling too is to put yourselves in difficult situations to see what you're made of, and that would certainly do that.
Well, one more thing on the Aggies, and then we'll move on to your program. I'm sure you had a very proud coaching moment over the last couple of weeks with Nimi Keita getting drafted to the Sacramento Kings, and then Sam Merrill winning an NBA championship with the Milwaukee Bucks.
It's been a heck of a run, without a question. So happy for them and their families, and there's so much that goes into it. I mean, there's so many people, those guys don't do it alone. Certainly they had to do it, though. They're the ones out there doing all the workouts. They're the guys out there that are performing with 1 minute to go in a conference tournament title game. They're the guys out there down 1 against LSU that have to make those plays. Coaches certainly help facilitate a lot of that stuff. I'm sure they've all had individual trainers, right? Their parents that have helped them, put them in position to succeed, high school coaches, AAU coaches, right on down the line, that so many people have helped them along the way, and they would be the first to admit that. So for Sam to be able to win an NBA championship, think of how many incredible players and how many players, period, go through the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball or the WNBA or whatever it might be and never get to say they're a champion. How many college athletes are the same way, that never get to cut down the nets, that never get to win a tournament championship, whether it's soccer or softball or whatever it was. Those dudes did it in college. They didn't just talk the talk, they walked the walk, right? And now Sam being able to win an NBA championship in his rookie year, it's incredible. And then Nimi, I wish people could see Neemish Keita, people forget his first day when he arrived at campus, here's this 6'11", long, skinny kid who weighed 215 pounds. I have the picture. His shoulders are so narrow, and he just literally looked like he was a 15-year-old. And when we first hit the road this year, and of course, college coaches haven't been able to be on the road for, however long it was, not being able to do it last summer. They're like, how did you get Keita? And I'm like, a big reason we got Keita is nobody was recruiting him. And so it's kind of wild. And then he goes through a pretty serious injury his sophomore year. And then he becomes the 39th pick in the NBA draft. And Eric Peterson, our assistant at University of Utah, was with us 3 years at Utah State and 4 years at University of South Dakota, was the lead recruiter on him, and obviously has a great relationship with him. And him and Eric and I were in Los Angeles with Nimi and his mother and a few other people enjoying the draft day. So that was a really cool moment, a special moment that he'll certainly never forget, but we won't forget. And it's incredible the thoughts and memories that go through your mind leading up to that day. And then certainly some anxious moments during the draft, and then to see that all happen, and mom's in tears. And if you see where Nimi grew up, it's quite an amazing story. And now the work is really begun. He's put himself in this great situation, but now he's got more work to do. And so I'm actually heading out tomorrow to the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. We'll be able to watch Nimi play twice. We'll be able to watch Sam Merrill play twice. And we got another guy, Matt Mooney, who's a very good player for us at University of South Dakota. He's playing with the Jazz this summer. Saw him play last week in Vivint, and we'll be able to see him play a couple times as well. In fact, Keita and Merrill play each other on Friday night at 6 o'clock, now that Sam got traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. So that'll be a pretty special night.
Yeah, that is going to be really special for you to be able to watch some of your players going up against each other now, rather than having it just be in practice, right?
Yeah. And most of the time they were on the same team in practice, but it's it is pretty cool when you think about 3 years ago when we first got to Utah State and we were picked 9th, and Sam had a lot of work to do with his body, to get his body right and to get healthy, and he had to really work on his nutrition and some other things to get a little bit quicker, a little more athletic, right? Just a little more just to be able to get to the spots, and he was able to do that. And of course, Keita, goes from 215 to 250, and now to see their dreams come true in this setting is a great start. But now they just got to keep climbing the ladder, and they both will.
Now, another thing that we haven't talked about was you actually picked up Booth Gotch. You're actually bringing him back to the University of Utah. He left for a season, went and played back in your home state, his home state, and you were able to bring him back to Utah. Just talk about the process of how you were able to get him from the Golden Gophers to the Runnin Utes.
Well, Booth is a special player. I think he's got a chance to be very, very good. I think it starts twofold. DeMarlo Slocum coached him for a year at the University of Utah, his freshman year. So DeMarlo and Booth, even though DeMarlo did not recruit Booth to the Utes the first time, he obviously had a great relationship with Booth. And then I've recruited Booth 3 times, and it's finally the third time is the charm. But the very last day we could be on the road recruiting, when Booth was a senior in high school down at Compass Prep, I was there. And it was me and another school. It was not University of Utah, but it was Utah State and another school. And so visited with him that day, as well as many phone conversations. Then, of course, when Booth put his name in the transfer portal at the University of Utah, we recruited him for a couple weeks and, maybe a little bit longer. But then it became pretty apparent with COVID and everything going on, getting home became a big priority for Booth to be around his family, just with all the uncertainty of everything going on in the world at that time. And then when he decided to put his name in the portal, Richard Pitino is the coach that he went there to play for. And, I think the coaching thing is a big thing with a lot of these guys when they decide on where they want to go. And, for every prospect, it's different, right? Some people, it's just the school. Some people, it's style of play. Some people, it's location. Some people, there's so many things that go into it. But the head coach and the coaching staff is a huge part of it. And typically how they treat their players, what's their track record of winning and developing players, et cetera, et cetera. And so with Booth, I think it was a combination of his relationship with our staff, DeMarlo, myself, Eric Peterson. He's very familiar with here. There's a reason he came here, right? He loves Salt Lake City. He loved the U. He had a great experience here, and I can't speak for him exactly, and I don't really get into all the those sorts of things. That's only he knows that truly. But I know what we are. I know what we have to, I don't want to say sell, but I know what we have to offer these guys that come here, and it's an incredible place. And so I think it all just kind of added up, and he had a lot of options. He could have went maybe not anywhere in the country, but he could have went a lot of places in the country, and he chose up. He had a great summer, really got stronger, got more explosive, and is really starting to figure out our style of play where he can be a big-time playmaker for the Runnin Utes. And so, we still got to see, we're still working on some things in terms of eligibility to make sure he can play this year. And I think we're in a good spot that way, but nothing's official as of this time. So we're excited to have Booth here, and he's got the greatest smile and personality, and we're sure fortunate to have him back at the U.
Where do you see him fitting within your system? Obviously, at Utah, when Larry was here, he was playing the one, mainly off the ball. At the two, could play the three because of his length. Where do you kind of see him playing within your system?
Well, we plan on playing him all over. I think that's what he is. He's got tremendous versatility. Obviously, he's got great size at 6'6", 6'7", and very long. He's very instinctive. So he's a guy that to me, he's a playmaking guard. He can play the one, he can play the two, he can play the three. It's a little bit of semantics the way we look at it. And so, if you watch us play, I hate to use this term because so many people use it. It's kind of a little bit of a catchphrase, the positionless basketball and all that. And I don't know that I don't get totally into that, but we do have a very exciting brand of basketball, a fun style of play, where a guy like him, but quite frankly, a lot of our guys have such a versatile skill set in terms of, what they bring to the table for the Utes. And so, Booth's a guy that can handle, he can pass, he can shoot, he can get to the rim, he can make good decisions. So then it comes down to who can you guard? Can you guard the other team's point guard when they got a 5'10" jet, right? That can get from free throw line to free throw line on the blink of an eye. Or maybe they got in this league, can he guard a 6'7", 6'8", wing that's kind of whether they're a straight slashing guy, but an uber offensive rebounder, or are they like a Scottie Pippen type where it's like just kind of a walking triple-double, and I'm not sure Booth is that, but I do think Booth is a guy that's a stat stuffer where you'd never be surprised if Booth has, 18 points, 7 assists and 7 rebounds, right? Where he just can stuff the stat sheet every night out, and that's what he's going to need to do for us.
Now, since you've joined the Utes, it's been since April now?
March 28th, I believe.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty much right into April, but there you go. But have you noticed a difference in your ability to be able to recruit now that you have that Runnin Utes logo on your shirts as you're going around to these different tournaments and that, as opposed from other stops within your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you see that logo or the logo behind me, that has cachet, that has name recognition, and we have a great brand. So when you hop on an airplane or you go to an airport or you walk into a gym in Las Vegas or at the Under Armour events in wherever it might be, Indianapolis or Dallas, Texas, or, you go to, we haven't been to a high school gym yet, but you bring kids on campus. We've had such a great response in so many ways. June 1st was the very first day we could bring kids back on campus per NCAA rules with the COVID. And we had, a bunch of primarily in-state guys on campus. We had a few guys from out of state that flew in on unofficial visits. And now we're ramping up, getting ready we have some high caliber recruits, highly touted recruits that will be making visits to the University of Utah here coming up this fall per NCAA rules. I can't name names. And I love our recruiting class that we brought in this year. I think it's really helped us get in the door on some guys. And I love our coaching staff. I think we have a great coaching staff with connections all over that are just good, down-to-earth, normal people that treat people right, but have a tremendous track record of helping guys get better and having that kind of reputation around the country. And then you look at all the things that we have at the University of Utah, starting with our tradition of excellence in all facets, specifically men's basketball. I'm in part of the players lounge right now, and I'm looking at, it says Utes in the NBA, and I see all the guys that have made it to the NBA, and then the championship banners, regardless of our league affiliate. And then our facilities are off the chart. And then you get to live in this amazing state and this great city of Salt Lake City. There's nothing we don't have. And so now it's on us as coaches and as players to go out and make it happen. And I'm so fired up to be here. Mark Harlan and our administration have been off the charts. It's, they just said, hey, let's find a way to make it happen, whatever it might be. Let's be creative and go. And it's been a great 4 months, and I can't wait to get rolling when school starts on August 23rd.
I know that there's a lot to be said about NIL. What are your thoughts about it?
I'm excited about it. As a coach, we've known this has been this has been talked about for at least 2 years. I remember being in head coaches meetings with administrators at Utah State and just talking shop, like understanding what it is exactly and how it's going to go. And nobody knew exactly how it was going to happen and what the rules and regulations verbatim was going to be. But you could see the tea leaves, so to speak, for the last 2 years. It wasn't if, it was just a matter of time of when. And so, there's a lot of different thoughts out there, but it's reality. And so I try I love to live in reality, and this is what it is. And so I think it's exciting. I think it's a great opportunity for all student athletes, whether you're a men's basketball player, a football player, a volleyball player, a gymnast, a softball player, doesn't matter, to go out and capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. I think it's important for the student athletes to understand how they got their name, image, and likeness and where they're at, and not forget about that part of things. But there's definitely some rules and regulations everybody's got to abide by. There's strict guidelines that coaches have to, and the coaching staff needs to abide by. There's policies and procedures that the players or student athletes have to abide by. And those guys are going to find out quick what an LLC is and how you got to pay taxes and how that all works. Like, it's not just straight cash, like that's just not how it goes. So, I think I know some of our guys are taking advantage of some of that stuff. Some other guys are not too worried about it, and they're just worried about hoops, and getting better. So obviously it's a different time, and things are changing along the college landscape in so many ways across the board, especially the last 3 to 5 years. Think about how different the landscape is, and I would anticipate some other things changing as well. When you see Texas and Oklahoma, leaving the Big 12 to the SEC, and what's the domino effect of that? And so, just like you ask your players and your staff, it's always about NBA, next best action. And so now NIL is here, and there's certain things we can do and can't do, and we're going to help them the best that we can within the guidelines of the rules provided by the NCAA.
When NIL did become a thing, what did you tell your players about it?
I just said, what an exciting time. We're take advantage of the opportunities. It's awesome for you to be able to help yourself in the right way, but make sure you have a thorough understanding of what's going on, right? And that's always in shape and form. Who you're entering business deals with, right? What exactly are they looking for? Align yourself with the right people and make sure you do it in the right way that doesn't jeopardize, yourself or the team. And so I'm not crazy into all kinds of rules, and we have standards, and just talked about it and said, if you have any questions, talk to us as a coaching staff or obviously our compliance people. But our administration has been great getting ahead of the game and really trying to help our guys explore different, not just our guys, all of our student athletes at the University of Utah, to help them, put them in the best position to have sustained success.
Now, I had a great conversation with David Jenkins, and this was really cool. Huh?
Did you get a word in, Trevor?
Yeah, I did, actually. And it was a great conversation, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I asked him about NIL, and I was like, look, how are you going to be able to balance NIL, your endorsement deals and all of that stuff, trying to even, go after it, focus on basketball, and then also academics? And he actually said that when NIL became a thing, that he caught himself worrying about it too much, and that when he should be going in and getting some shots up, getting a workout in and things like that, he actually ended up catching himself doing that. And then he said, I also told all of our teammates that, guys, there's life after basketball. We need to worry about winning a championship as opposed to going after all these NIL deals. Just speak to that leadership, because I've actually talked to a lot of athletes about this, and I think that was probably the best answer he's ever given of all the people I've talked to about NIL.
Well, first of all, that tells you a lot about David, and he is a smart guy. Can be a deep thinker. He's very creative and innovative, and he's intelligent. And so you get one college career, and we have not told our players this yet, but you get one college career. So many guys that I know that have coached or what have you, or that come in and speak to your team, maybe I didn't coach them at the University of Utah, but when they come back and talk to your guys, they always talk about enjoy your college days, because it's different when you become a pro, right? And we won't get into all that piece of it, but it should be the time of your life in so many respects. And I think it is important. There's distractions all over, right? And so some people might view NIL as a distraction. I think in its what's the right word, theory of it, it's an awesome thing, but I think you have to be guarded with, is it going to be a distraction or not? I think it can really help people, though, too, be creative and open their minds to a whole different world. But what got them to this point? You know what I mean? It's the game that got them there, right? And so sometimes you can spread yourself too thin. There's a lot of other distractions in the world as well, and I think we can think of a lot of them off the top of our head. So, but David's a smart guy. We got a lot of smart guys in our team that I think are very well thought out, that see the big picture, that came here for a common purpose, right? And obviously that's all themed around the game of basketball. And so you guys are going to love being around David and love his answers, and he's got great charisma to him. It's funny when we started recruiting him, because obviously the story, we played against him when we were at South Dakota, and I told him in the recruiting process, he had 25 on us in the Summit League championship game to go to the NCAA tournament, and he politely reminded me it was 29. And then he sat out a year at UNLV, our second year at Utah State. He had hung, I think, 31 or 33 on us in one game at UNLV. Of course, they lost that game, but we won't get into that. But he's just a fun guy to be around. He's gotten better. He had a good summer as well. He's really improved some things he needed to get better at. And then he's just a bucket getter. I mean, that guy can score it from a lot of different places. So we're excited to have him in our program.
Two more things for you, Coach. How have summer workouts been? Just to have the guys back in the gym, getting some work in, and starting to get to know these guys as you guys are ramping up for this season.
And it's been awesome. You get hired on March 28th, and you go through all this stuff, and you don't know exactly if you're going to be able to be back on the road recruiting. You don't know exactly what the rules are going to be. Just the things that specifically our players, but all over the country, and coaches had to deal with COVID and testing, and what are the protocols going to be, and what are our guys are 100%. Everybody in our program is vaccinated, is fully vaccinated, from players to coaches to support personnel. So there's a lot of things that we put ourselves in a position we don't have to go crazy about with the protocols, because we are fully vaccinated. So to be able to, we didn't miss any time, except certain guys missed some times with specific injuries. That's part of the game. But to be that's the favorite part about coaching, right? Being on the floor, sweating with your players, having fun, getting better. I'd say the first 3 or 4 weeks, it was a big learning curve in a lot of ways. We did almost all skill development for the first 3 weeks, and then we really started ramping up our team workouts with the skill development. These guys, you forget, we only returned, like I said earlier, 24% of our scoring. We returned 4 guys in our program that have ever played more than 4 minutes in their career with the University of Utah basketball. So there's a ton of new faces, a lot of inexperience. But I love our guys. I'm super excited about this group. I don't know how good we're going to be, but we've shown that we have an attitude that craves improvement. We have guys that want to be coached, and not just want to be coached when they're doing well, that want to be up in the offices watching film with a member of the coaching staff, that want to ask questions at the right time. It took a little while to understand the pace we play with, and the Gator mentality, and diving on the floor and sprinting to pick guys up, and what we're looking for. But they've really bought in. I thought the first 3 weeks we had to coach effort a decent amount, and multiple effort plays, and making tough guy plays. And now I would say the last 3 weeks, we really haven't had to talk about that at all. Now it's just kind of understood, and we've really been able to dive into coaching and playing. And you could see the last 2 weeks or so, 2.5 weeks, I felt like we really got better. And that was easy to see as a coach. I'm not sure our players see that, but we do. We got to get better at a lot of things. When you look at last year to this year, rebounding is a big thing. Getting to the foul line is a big thing. We were at the bottom of our league in defensive rebounding. We were number 2 in the country in rebounding at Utah State. And we can get into more specifics that we have to get better at. But it's a group that really wants to be great and really wants to represent Runnin Utes in the right fashion. And thoroughly, it's been a joy to be around them. And part of it now, they all think they're playing 35 minutes a game, Trevor. So that can change a little bit when guys, see where they're at, so to speak. But it's exciting because we had 8 great weeks. We'll have 6 weeks when we start before we practice. And then we'll have another 6 weeks once we start practice. So it's going to be on us quick. However, we still have a good 12 weeks to really improve as a team, and to really develop these guys' games to get to where we need to go. So that's exciting.
You're not ready to name a starting lineup yet, are you?
Not even close. But, I do think we have some depth in our program. There's a lot of guys. It's going to be super competitive, Trevor. Super competitive. And I think we have enough depth and versatility that we can play a lot of different ways. I think we can play big. I think we can play small. I think we can play fast. I think we can play slow. And so we'll see what happens. I'm pumped. I'm going back and watching all the team practices here between now and when school starts. And I've started that process already. And then really diving into the league and watching more conference games as well, just to keep getting a better feel for all the teams in the conference. But it's going to be super competitive. It's going to be an exciting brand of basketball. Can't wait to pack the Huntsman Center and get this thing rolling.
How deep do you normally go into your bench on a typical game as far as rotation?
Yeah, it depends on the team. Early on at Utah State, we had 11 guys on our team. We played all 11, which I wouldn't say that's normal, but it was the same type of thing where we clearly had our top guy, like Kada and Merrill were our top, like our best two players. And then we had a bunch of guys kind of right after that, depending on who we were playing, with some things. And then we had another group, but it was hard to get a ton of set. It was almost like we had three kind of chunks.
Yeah.
And we just started playing them. I mean, I remember Abel Porter and Justin Bean were hardly playing, and they were both walk-ons. I don't like to label guys like that because to me, if you're in our program, you're in our program. But those guys both worked their way to earning a scholarship at semester time. They were playing the 10th and 11th most minutes of those 11 guys. And it's hard in November because you're just playing games and you don't get a lot of practice time. Then December hit and we were able to settle in and get some good, valuable practice time. And Abel and Bean just kept getting better. And I remember telling my wife, like, I don't know why I'm not playing these guys. And she's like, well, you're the dummy. So we started playing them more and they just kept ascending. Other guys just kind of kept the same level, right? And so you never know what players and what guys are just going to keep climbing that ladder and keep ascending and keep developing their confidence. Last year, by the end of the year, we were only playing about 7, which I don't like playing 7 guys. Ideally, we're playing 9 to 10. I love having depth. I think it matters. I think it's healthy for competition. And I just think it really helps you, especially in the Pac-12, where you're playing Thursday and Saturday. So you have the 2 games in 3 days. But I like playing a lot of guys.
Final thing. I know that the conference got a brand new commissioner in George Klyavkov. I know that he's really put an emphasis and focus on making football and men's basketball competitive because those are the revenue generating sports. Have you had any interactions with him as of yet? And how have those gone?
I haven't had any like one-on-one interactions. Obviously, just some things with the league and dialogue with Mark Harlan, our athletic director. So I'm excited about it. Seems like a great guy and a passionate guy. And I'm excited where this league is going. Think of where this league ended last year with, 5 teams in the Sweet 16. And I think the league is going to be really, really good this year. Like really, really good. And that's a great thing. Now, who knows if I'll be saying that in February, but that's what you want. You want high expectations. I want high expectations in our program, period. So I've been always, from the time I was a 22-year-old coach starting this profession, and it doesn't matter if I've been the head coach at Mayville or South Dakota or Utah State or the University of Utah. We want a fan base that is pumped. We want a fan base that has high expectations. You want to be in the best of the best, and the Pac-12 has proven that. And so I've always believed, bring on the competition. Let's find out who we are and what we are. And it's a process for us, right? But everywhere we go, our goals are make the NCAA tournament and win when we get there. And this year's no different.
Have you also caught up with Kyle Whittingham yet?
Briefly. I need to get over to football practice. He's such a great person. Obviously, their program has been incredible. And, polls don't tell you everything, but I think one thing that preseason polls do tell you is the level of respect your program has earned. And certainly the University of Utah football program has earned a ton of respect nationwide. And so when you see these preseason polls where they're almost always ranked, I think I saw one where they're 15 and a bunch of others where they're in the top 25. It's an exciting time. So can't wait to get over there and watch a few practices and see where this team goes. It's going to be exciting to fill that stadium up.
Are you going to catch a game in that brand new renovated Rice-Eccles Stadium?
A lot more than one game. I'll be at every game. Trust me.
Yeah. And then also the Vikings. Are you bummed that Aaron Rodgers chose to come back for the Packers?
I don't know if bummed is the right word. Aaron Rodgers, it's hard for me to say this being a Viking. I'm a staunch Vikings fan. And I just love football. Our players look at me like I'm out of our mind. All the football analogies we use, our European guys think it's a soccer analogy. But, No, let's beat them when they're at their best. So we got a couple Packer fans on our staff, so we always have a fun time and fun debates with that whole thing. So excited for this NFL season to get rolling.
At least you guys have a quarterback. Denver Broncos can't say that.
Are you a Bronco fan?
Yeah.
Hey, I think the Broncos are up in Minneapolis right now. They're doing their
like the mixed training camp.
Drew Lock. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's still young.
He's
he might have a breakout season. You never know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, your former quarterback Teddy Bridgewater was traded over there, so they're battling it out.
I know. I hear that. I follow a guy on social media that's a Broncos guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's always sports. It's just so fun to follow sports, and it's like enjoyable. You know, in about 2-3 weeks here, it'll really start ramping up with our workouts and on the road recruiting, so it becomes harder. And then, of course, when the season starts, but just watching the Olympics and that spirit. I mean, whether it's a gymnast or watching the volleyball team win gold, the track and field, it's so fun to watch the best of the best, whether it's the Olympics or the NFL or whatever, that competitive spirit, that drive. It's just truly amazing how, a gold medal you are like, right? Especially like in a track and field where it's literally, I forget a couple of those races, the 400 hurdles maybe, or the where it's like, I mean, literally the difference.
Even swimming.
Oh yeah, swimming. I mean, the lock that guy's incredible. But like how you go from a gold to not even placing in 4 years of training, and not even to mention their whole lives of training up to that point. But and it comes down to that. It's just truly amazing the discipline and the toughness that these athletes have to have mentally, physically, and everything that they go through for that moment. It's truly remarkable, and it's so exciting to have this time of year. And just seeing outside of my office all the student athletes walking around, and you can tell there's already more energy, and it'll be really ramped up in 2 weeks.
Well, Coach, it's always good to catch up with you. Hopefully, we'll do it again soon. I need to come up and visit you guys in person and meet you in person. Hopefully, we'll get that done here in the next month or two. But always great catching up with you. Thanks for joining me.
Stop up anytime, Trevor. Go Utes.
All right, there you go. That is head coach Craig Smith here on a special live edition of the Crimson Corner podcast. It's always powered by KSLSports.com.